Hello, and welcome to Night Clerk Radio, episode 104, where we are once again tackling a compilation mixtape that is far too large to do in a single episode, and consequently is extremely unfair to all, to cover everybody who is on it equally. Mm-hmm. So we're doing the Hot Takes podcast charity compilation. It's just called Volume 1 that they put out about a month ago when this releases. And the idea is that they had a general call for tracks out to their community and put together a mixtape that all the proceeds go to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund to help children displaced by the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And the way it's structured is kind of cool. So there's 28 tracks. If you can just go listen for free on Bandcamp, there's 28 upfront tracks. And those tracks are all from people who were guests on the show throughout its history.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's my understanding, is that the first 20 are all people who have been on the show in the past as interviewees. And then if you throw a couple bucks their way, you get the full download that has like 43 tracks and a bunch of bonus tracks and stuff. Yes, that's why there's so many heavy hitters, because they have so many people. They're just huge names that have been on that show throughout the years.
Yeah. No, it's a stacked list of artists on here.
Oh, yeah. It's a super stacked tape. So before we sort of fumble through all those tracks and try to talk about as many of them as possible or reasonable, or we can talk about them in groups. Mm-hmm. And if you like broad thoughts, number one, it's very cool to see all these community fundraising efforts come together.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's this. They just on the Hot Takes stream had Vaporwave run by Quiz. And that was also for the PCRF to raise money. They raised like $4,400 in 8 hours or something, however long that show went on. It's a crazy amount of money for a small niche community to come together. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty impressive. We've talked about Crystal Eternal did Sanctuary, which was raising money to fight anti-trans laws in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And there's like Vapor Shave is another one I can think of off the top of my head that I believe is for leukemia.
I hadn't heard of that one.
I don't know if it happened this year yet. It was like around this time last year, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know if it got moved around or they just didn't do it this year or what. I should probably go look. But it's just an example. And I don't know. I think it's kind of cool when all these little niche internet communities come together to try to raise some money for good causes.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a worthy thing to do. I'm reminded of like the tabletop community on itch.io doing similar things, setting up charity bundles for Black Lives Matters. And I just donated to a one for Gaza. Relief,
like humble bundle type stuff.
Yeah,
I think they also. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we're recording this one later in the day, so I'm pizza drunk at the moment.
Pizza drunk. All right. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
The other sort of broad thought I had about this album or mixtape or whatever you want to call it is we always talk about compilations as curation or introduction into genres and stuff. And I think for me, this may have been like one of the best for that, because it's not just like, oh, here's some artists in slushwave or vaporwave that they do stuff you kind of like, but maybe you just haven't heard of the artist. You never really sat down and checked them out for whatever reason. We always talk about there's so much stuff to watch or listen to.
Yeah.
But I felt like the variety on this was like really surprising, and even like into like genres or styles I may not pursue as much, partially I think because of what that community's into. There's a lot more like vaporwave, more like breaks or like Eurodance or house sort of blends.
Synth pop and like shoegaze kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's the other stuff I was gonna say is there's a lot of tracks on here like synth pop or like 90s aughts indie rock ish mixed with vaporwave, like as a compliment, like a lot of stuff that was more lyrical driven than I usually chase down.
100%.
So I also just really appreciate this as introducing me to a whole bunch of artists whose names I've heard, hadn't really sat down and listened to as well as I should have, but also just like completely different genres than I expected.
Yeah.
As soon as all those lyrical synth pop songs come up through them, I was like, God, I mean, I just haven't listened to this type of stuff in so long, but it's cool that people are like making it.
Yeah. I think that's the really valuable thing about this album is that it shows a cross section of what artists who are currently producing music in this kind of umbrella of the vaporwave scene, right? And the vaporwave scene encompasses a lot of stuff because it's, more of an aesthetic and a philosophy or an approach to making art and making music. You can call this synth pop or shoegaze, but they still use like I watched a bit of that Twitch stream, and a lot of the visual elements that went with this music are pretty similar to what you would see in like classic vaporwave music videos. But like, so like, oh, if you're taking old VHS footage and like deconstructing it, or, you know, applying effects to it to synchronize with the music, that can work with not just, you know, Macintosh Plus style music, but like synth pop. And yeah, it's like there's a lot of different ways to explore and express emotions based on, you know, dealing with dissociation and, you know, consumerism and hauntology and like all these things. There's a lot of different ways to get to the same destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a really cool way of demonstrating that, because it's all, again, it's a community that like has been drawn to the Hot Takes podcast community and Discord and all that. And they clearly, you know, a lot of the same things resonate with them. And so it really is cool to see how that's expressed in different ways.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that about the stream, because some of those Vaporwave sets were ridiculous. And as soon as those VODs go up, people should definitely be checking them out. Like there are some pretty mind-blowing shows and performances. Like Discoholic's set was amazing. It was so fun.
Yeah, I watched in part, but I was actually listening to this album to prep for the show and editing podcasts.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was
just super high energy, like so much production value, and like just really just put everything into it. Like
I did watch part of Pad Chinnington's set, and that was really fucking dope.
Yeah, they're all really good. It's really cool to check out. Yeah, also just the variety of styles, but we're not doing an episode on that, even though we probably could, because it was a great show. We're talking about the Hot Takes Volume 1. So as is the large compilation tradition, it's not going to be a lot of samples. It's probably going to be one in a minute, as soon as I explain the samples.
Okay.
To get us into the segue into the actual like discussion track block, and then one for the outro. If you want to see what tracks those are, check the show notes. Also, just go support this album because it's an awesome album and it's for a good cause. Okay, Ross, we have the task of going through, not everyone, of course, 43 tracks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go roughly in album order, but kind of talk about blocks of tracks, and then we can comment on individual ones if you'd like, or just, again, the overall kind of block and flow of the album.
Yeah, the block and flow is sort of the best way to go. I mean, there are a couple like things, especially at the beginning, that I want to mention specifically, because I was like, you know, but like, I think that's a good way of doing it.
Sure. So, as expected, starts off with the Luxury Noise track, Lost Coast, got Water Sounds, awesome breaks. Definitely, they have an album coming out May 3rd. Probably going to be my new music album for May.
Ooh.
Definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, kind of going into that like vapor breakcore kind of vapor trap.
Yeah, he's really good at that.
Yeah.
Really, really good at that.
I like this new trend.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, as any good mixtape, you keep the energy high through the first few tracks. So there's like a bit of a future funk block in tracks 2, 3, and 4. So you got like Frank Jeffsy doing Vaporwave Radio, Groovy Kaiju.
I love that guy. I love him. I still think I can still that video he did about how to make vaporwave. It's like being a VHS tape in Japan and you're flying in the sky in an abandoned mall. Like that lives rent free in my brain. That's how I tried to describe vaporwave to someone who had no idea what the fuck I was talking about.
His stuff's always really, really fun.
Yeah.
And also Groovy Kaiju, Legends Never End, and Cyan Blue, Straight Ahead. Also both great future funk tracks.
Yes.
So really cool block. I do love on the Frank Jeffsy that like woodwind solo, because I don't know if you saw his like Vaporwave set or other things he's done, but he does like, I don't know how long this has been going on. It's because I've been as tuned into the live scene, but he just like play saxophone and stuff during live sets.
Ooh, that's cool.
It's fun.
I do like using a live instrument in the middle of a DJ set because, like, unrelated, but I watched a house set where someone just plugged in, bass guitar, electric bass, and just started playing along, and like, oh yeah, I love that bass. And I was like, I love that kind of riffing.
Yeah, or like bringing in a little guitar or something, play along. Yeah. So there's like this really cool, chill device operator track, Ceramic, which I really liked. And then it goes into like this first surprising block of lyrical tracks with Skeleton Lipstick 1984. He's the other co-host along with Young Shiro of Hot Takes. So he's the other co-host. There's Inner Nature, Counting Backwards. And then it's really those two at first. There's more later. And yeah, this really surprised me because like 1984, it's more of like a synthwave or synth pop type track.
Yeah.
More down tempo. Yeah,
Skeleton Lipstick is one of those artists that I've known about for a while, but I've never really dived into their work too much. But I quite like it. Like, I was really surprised by how much I like the lyrical ones because, like, for me, vapor, asterisk, all the vapor subgenres are instrumental ones for me for the most part because it's like the music.
Yeah, the ambient aspect first.
Yeah, the ambient aspect, the hypnagogy to get me into an altered state of consciousness to just, become one with the abandoned shopping mall of the universe. But like the singing actually really worked and the lyrics. Yeah, no, I was surprised by how much I dug it.
Yeah, so that's the first kind of lyrics block. And then there's this nice long section of, I don't know how to describe it, just like amazing various takes on just producing electronic music. I wouldn't even say they're like necessarily like vaporwave. I know like genre is slippery and not really like the most the most accurate descriptor all the time, but just like really cool, like chopped up vocals through, kind of jump a little bit ahead, but like, so the first one is kind of take this like ethereal break through this Chlorine Mist track and then Persona LA Avenue and Navigator. Especially that Navigator track is really cool because I really like when they use vocal samples as instruments. I don't know why it's like this. So it starts off with like all these like chopped up moans and kind of like builds out this track. And it always makes me think of when I was a kid, I had this one of those like cheap Casio keyboards and had like a voices was one of the patches. It's like doop, 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 doop. It's like vocalizing in key.
Yeah, that Navigator track really reminded me of Blank Banshee because I think Blank Banshee does some of the same kind of techniques. So I really also like track 9 because that's just straight up synthwave, like action movie, 80s action film kind of soundtrack synthwave, which is a staple of the genre, and I love it.
Yeah, I think I said for track 9 in my notes, it's like I'm firing up the best procedural montage that no one remembers.
Yeah, gotta load up all my guns.
Yeah, like very, very fun. And kind of continue this like chill but kind of glitchy with Be Careful Hubris, which is another like really cool, like kind of glitchy, but really kind of the most chill I felt during glitchy music, which is sometimes more like unsettling.
So that was track 11.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. That is sampling something that I've heard before. I cannot remember it off the top of my head, but 100% there. Like there is some loop there. That is going to bug me for a while.
Be strong.
Yeah. Shazam it or something. Yeah. But
I always debate how much I want to like sample snoop people or just let them do their thing and just enjoy it. I kind of lean towards the latter, partially.
Well, I just remember it was a track I loved, and now I was like, what is that? I was like, So yeah, I don't know. Struggles. The struggle's real.
But yeah, then we go into this Unreal track, Sticky Jesus, which is like, so because it feels like a very old school jam to me. Like it felt very, I don't know. I'm probably wrong in my characterization, but it just felt like an homage, like old school jam. It just felt really good to listen to. And then out of nowhere, you have Fighting Island, who had an amazing Dungeon Synth set at Vaporade. I mean, any of these people that are at Vaporade had great sets, but Dungeon Synth has entered the chat and comes in for a bit, and you get like that sort of old school MIDI throwback. No,
I quite like it. Yeah, little chip tune / Dungeon Synth as a treat, And Sequence Break is like a speed running term, so it's obviously in reference to that, I'd imagine. You got to sequence break the game in order to get ahead, to get those world records going.
Is that how you get the good tech?
Yeah, it's powerful tech to sequence break,
Interesting. No, I've not heard the term.
It's funny. No, it's like you have to get the key to unlock the door and do it in this order. But if you can fuck up the order, you can like break the game's program.
Oh, that's what that means. Okay, yeah. I'm familiar with that as a technique. I just not heard it called a sequence break. That's interesting. Cool. So moving to track 14, JD Sentui, or DJ iTunes backwards. And yeah, this is where you get into like more Eurobeat. I guess, or like house and vaporwave kind of blend.
Yeah.
And then into a track that also is like really stood out to me is a Cruisin' World by Luxury Elite. I don't know if Cruisin' World is itself a video game reference, but to me, the reason this really stood out is it felt very Streets of Rage, like really, really good Sega Genesis era beat 'em up soundtracks, which is interesting because that's not like the vibe that's usually in our albums, which is more 90s media, or more like fashion or pop culture.
Yeah, no, what it reminded me was actually a mix I listened on YouTube like a couple weeks ago. It was called Video Game Jazz, and it was all tracks from video game soundtracks, and they were all meant to be like jazzy kind of tracks, and they were like from racing games and gambling games and games like that, and like it kind of fits that high energy, but like trying to be a little more sophisticated than the average, video game tune. So it's perfect at what it is. I love it.
Yeah. Coming out of that, we have another set of sort of more lyrics driven, and like Whitewood's Mr. Eyes Wide Shut is like one of the ones I said when I said felt like a little like 90s or like kind of indie electro. There's that, and like all these have like pretty interesting lyrics, but this one had like great anti-war lyrics about like drone strikes and the bats, like all that awful shit, but in that way where you have that juxtaposition between like tone and the content, which is something I always really like.
Yeah, it's like, what is it, like laid back surfer rock, but about talking about that shit? It's really weird. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah. It's, fascinating as a piece of work. Yeah.
Similarly, I thought that Wizard of Loneliness was another that comes right after that. It is also a more lyrical driven track that
I
also
like
really stood out to me in style. Yeah, me too. But again, it just really stood out to me. But it's funny because then, you get ripped back into the next track with Hey Pal by iClick, and you're back into like this kind of like Plunderphonics jam. But I don't know if it's like North African or Arabic or what the actual source samples are.
Yeah.
But just a really, really fun track. Just a little more classic Plunderphonics. And then you get transitioned again into like that classic video game music vibes of Dan Mason. Also on the list of people we really need to talk about more on the show because they're huge. Every time they've been in a compilation or in any sort of set, I've loved it. Just need to find an excuse to talk about it.
Just release a new album for us, Dan Mason. Just do that so we could talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, or like video game music. Do another round of video game music.
Ooh, yeah.
Would be fun. Because there's a lot of really good video game stuff. But yeah, I definitely want to get his music on the show more at some point. Not that he needs us, but I just want to talk about it.
Good excuse. I mean, it's good. I really like the next track, which is Spirit Architecture, I guess, by Comet. And it's starts kind of like almost like a dark on-me kind of thing, like, and also singing in Arabic, I believe. And then it kind of turns into an EDM track, and that kind of really build up, sells the music. And you really get locked into it. I really a standout piece on this. Yeah.
I agree. I really love that transition from all that like interesting open vocalizers into when there's like drums and synth bass and more sequencers come in. Super, super fun. Then Mesh is also a really fun track 21. Kim and Patty Cakes. I think my font is small, so I'm trying to read it without squinting.
Yeah, you got it. Kim and Patty Cakes.
Thanks. Great. Yeah. My Mesh. And again, just like a really nice song, like almost, I always kind of felt sentimentally to me, which I liked. Like, again, kind of nestled in between this EDM, and then the next track is also Trucks Passing Trucks, which is, I believe, the project of the person who runs Pacific Plaza Records.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly. Boy, I hope I'm not spreading misinformation. But yeah, just like this really like richly layered track. Lots of, I love when there's like just lots of layered elements. So there's like all the synth, and there's awesome drums underneath. There's these little guitar accents coming through. Just like overall, like a really nice composition, really well pieced together. Yeah.
I really like the next track, The Weight of History by Digital Sex, because I felt that was really shoegazy in a very lush way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super lush, super like early 90s wall of sound shoegaze. And I think that's one of the things that like, I want to see more of this nostalgia come in, because it's like I said on the episode that dropped today when we were recording, actually, is I love that genre. And I'd love to see more influences from it come in. So that takes us into our next track, which is a Dream Link by Donor Lens. And we're back into like this atmospheric intro. But, this track that I just love these tracks where it's like a super common technique. But like you just have these, you kind of get lulled in with these like atmospheric intros. And then they kind of have like drums and all these other elements come in. I'm just describing good songwriting, I know.
Yeah.
But, or song composition or piecing together, I guess, in plunderphonics or.
Yeah. I mean, I think I heard a PlayStation sample in there, console sound. Yeah. So
great.
That's all you need. I have a low bar. No, I liked it. It does have a good structure to it.
Yeah. As we kind of get into the back half of the, we're heading towards the end of the free tracks or the no tracks. There's a lot of like interesting back and forth where earlier it feels like there's like collected sets. Mm-hmm. And now we kind of like move back and forth between all these ideas, which I sort of like as you get further into the album, instead of just having like, here's the 6 vaporwave songs. Here's the 6 VGM songs, because the next track is Fire Tools. Yearning equals alchemical fire. And yeah, we're back into like VGM RMG vibes. Very mysterious. Feels like you're discovering something, or I'm exploring.
Yeah, it's very intricate and layered. There's the kind of like the synth harpsichord sound or something. Like it's very like Baroque almost. It's a very intriguing track. It's one of the standouts on the album for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, I really like those like layered Baroque chamber kind of music, but not. I really dig that sound.
Yeah, and it's interesting because then the next one is a track that it stood out for me, but also I think a lot of it's like the juxtaposition, like where it sits in between other tracks. This is Golden Living Room track, and it's like this big wall of sound, like just lush. There's all these like either slightly out of tune or microtonal pieces on top of it, just like this discordant wall of sound. And I really like it, but it's just interesting because it's, you have this like RPG clean VGM track before that. And you have this like big discordant wall of sound in this Golden Living Room track. And then you have Dream Bee, which is like a spooky piano and bass playing in another room. Yeah,
very minimalist compared to the rest of it.
Super minimalist, super effective, but like it's just interesting because I almost got like baited by the rest of the album into expecting like, okay, in any second there's going to be a drop and it's going to become an EDM track. And it doesn't, of course, given the artist, it just doesn't. It just stays spooky piano, which I love. And then the outro of the free or the Bandcamp of main tracks is Topaz Gang, and this is like this big long 8-minute track. I just love the timbre of the synth throughout it. There's like piano, and there's like this like layer underneath of crowd talking.
Yeah, the field recording part was really really interesting. Like I always wonder about those kind of field recordings, like how like personal they are to the artist, like what is the significance to them. Like I can invent my own meaning of it, but it's a intriguing mystery, and it's something to ponder, and like that's not necessarily bad. I don't need to know the answer, but like it's nice to, what story am I not being told here? Yeah, that's being hinted at. It's very neat and very, very soothing in its own kind of way. Yeah.
That's great. But then you get pushed back into the bonus tracks. Now we're in the We've Donated section. We get to listen to more great music, and start off with the Strip Silence jams. Hot Takes FM. Strip Silence always does super fun stuff. Out of Office is one of those albums that I wish we had talked about. I got it on tape. He's also fun because he'll just do like long DJ sets on like the Hot Takes Discord. Just on board, I'm gonna smoke weed and DJ on Discord for a couple hours.
Yeah, nice.
And they're pretty good times because you take requests and you can like work them into the set and everything.
I love the radio tuning sounds he puts in there. Like that's
yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah. But then we go into this Comma track, which is like a big vaporwave / electronic music jam. But vaporwave is electronic music. I need to think of a better way to describe it. When it has like a bit more of like a beat structure, like
it's not vapor
house or something. It's not vapor trap.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like what do they want to call it? Like vapor house? How would they describe it?
I would love vapor house.
Which I think, vapor house exists.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's what they call it or if they even care.
Yep. Genres are tough.
That's right.
Especially in a genre known for ambiguity and uncertainty.
Yeah, so I don't know, like vapor funk. Maybe it's like on the edge of future funk, but closer to, I don't know. Like, whatever it is, fucking sounds great. And that's what really matters. Yeah. Getting silly hung up on exactly how to describe stuff. But it feels, I've said a couple times this episode.
Things, yeah.
In a podcast about describing things, it should be better at describing things. But also, I've said a few times, it's like a blend of vaporwave and electronic music. But vaporwave is electronic music. So it's an incredibly dumb statement, but I'm sticking with it because Pizza drunk. What are you going to do?
Hashtag pizza drunk.
But speaking of vaporwave, track 31, I do know Gamma Flow Manhattan. That's just straight up like really soothing classic vaporwave. Great Plunderphonics track that then transitions into track 32 by Georgie 1802. And this felt like very corporate wave to me. I think I said in my notes, I feel like someone's trying to sell me something.
Yeah. Like I got more chill wave vibes, but yeah, it's
chill wave, office soft, mall soft a little bit. Like it's very, very product-y. like it's like it's introducing a product, like the Ronco.
Oh no.
These are all compliments, by the way, just to be clear. We've done many episodes on our love of corporate wave or like advertising music that evokes that feel of like that sort of advertising or corporate music. I mean, I don't know if that's what the artist is going for, but that's kind of how it sat with me.
Advertising becomes art once the product that it's or thing it's trying to sell is no longer on the market. Like once it becomes an antique and it's removed from the market conditions, then we can critically appreciate it. That's I think the standard now. Like, yeah, once we take it into a new context, once we remove its original context, then we can call it art and sample it. There we go. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Cracked the code, Russ. We solved vaporwave. But speaking of vaporwave, we go to our next track, Enzo 3000. Then back to sort of a classic vaporwave feel, but I like this track because it felt a little darker, a little more mysterious than some vaporwave. I'm not sure what brings that out for me. Parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, this whole back half of the album, especially this last section, they get really. I mean, it's a good way to structure an album, right? You have the really high energy stuff at the beginning and kind of like slow down as the album progresses, and like, classic vaporwave would be a good way of describing it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I was also curious what you thought about the next track, 34, Don Aaron, Can It Be With a Cold Mind? Because kind of gave me like video game, but I couldn't tell you what. I couldn't tell if that was right or if it was just like a 90s jam. I don't know why. Not the first time I listened to it, but the second time I listened to it, I was like, this is making me think of a video game, but I don't know which one. And I don't think that was the intent.
Yeah, I was getting like signal wave vibes from it. That kind of looping nature of it. That
was how I felt the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like the second time, I was like, it's a little bit of tinge of video game here. I don't know why. It might be totally on me.
It might be sampling a video game. We don't know. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then we move into some more like down tempo atmospheric jams. Zanction. I really like this more. Like I love that those little like I call them microtonal, even though that's probably not technically correct, but there's like little lo-fi keys, little warbly, little microtonal come in. Great down-tempo atmosphere track. Really, really fun. Right. We have another Gamma Flow and Lost Traveler track, which is, so you got more just two heavy hitters in classic vaporwave come together, make a great classic vaporwave track.
Let's say track 37 was really cool. 1-800 Tonight After Midnight. I just love me some late night lo-fi. And I love the track title too. Just like 1-800 Tonight. Well, I guess that's the artist name, but like it's just, I don't know. Perfect.
After
combo.
Midnight's the track title. No, so 1-800 Tonight is also a Lux Elite side project.
Oh, okay. No wonder I like it so much.
Yeah, it's great. It's music to make questionable phone calls from your motel too. That's sort of how I think of it. Yeah. I think that's the intent. So you come out of this this late night lo-fi Lux Elite side project track into the next two tracks really, really stood out to me for that reason. There's Website, and then the track title is just some code to print out vector elements. It's system.out.println, etc. But Website, and it's like this big, full, open, like ethereal synth, just a soundstage, just like this big ambient soundstage. And like that after a late night lo-fi track really sat well with me. I don't know why. Like it was very relieving.
It's kind of that like ambient inspired by Brian Eno working on Windows startup sounds. I feel like there's kind of this subgenre of Windows ambient of like having that clean and calming and like just incredible synth sounds. And I think this sort of fits into it. So yeah.
I think it also stands out because it's not like lo-fi. It's not like buried or compressed. It's very wide.
Yeah.
It's very open. It's very crisp. And I think that also kind of makes it stand out, again, coming off a lo-fi track.
Yeah.
And track 39, Tree Diagram, Voyage is the same way, where I think it's another like big, beautiful.
It's spacier. It's more cosmic.
Low cosmic, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. But just
I actually misread the track title initially. I thought it said Voyager, so I was like,
like space, like Voyager 1, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. So it's like, well, you know,
close enough. Close enough.
Yeah,
close enough. But you come out of those back into like more kind of lo-fi classic vaporwave. It's funny this back and forth. Mm-hmm. It's super effective. And then, you know, I think the track order and like the general mixing was put together by Young Shiro, who himself is like a very, very good DJ. So I think he really knows how to like build all these tracks together intentionally. These are not like accidental effects, I'm sure, of the track order. So yeah, we head into some classic vaporwave, Gina and Trudy. And then 41 is finally took unfortunately this long for me to get to it, but I get my phaser wave, I get my rain, I get tons of big slushy phaser effects.
You love your slush wave.
I do. Yeah. I do. Feels good in the brain. And then of course 42 have this KJ volume track, which I love this stuff because it is just like noise and playful and industrial and like super crunchy, super crushed and just.
Yeah. There are times I like specifically seek out that kind of sound, and it's like
he's very good at it.
Yeah. I'll have to keep that in mind next time I need that crunchy sound.
Yeah. If you want something a little more like aggressive. Less chill.
I did like, there's like, I get really, now because I know about all these different sub genres of like ambient music. Like when I was reading Blood Meridian recently, and I was like pulling up dark ambient to listen to it, but I was like, no, I need something windswept and barren like the desert. I can't have mammoths hunting. That wouldn't make any sense. Or I can't have cyberpunk dystopia dark ambient. No. I need more deserty dark ambience. So yeah, now I'm just being unbearable with his choices. But yeah.
Guy who reads Blood Meridian ones. Vibes.
Basically.
Just need fiddle for the judge to dance to. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
That's all I need. Yeah.
Placate the judge.
10 hours of fiddle music with gunshots.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, Blood Meridian. It's probably not a soundscape I'll go after, but. Just to round off this album, we end up last track is Tephra track, which again, the Waves of Time goes back to just this kind of lo-fi, staticky, quiet piano tune is kind of your send-off to complete your album.
Which is perfect. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it works great as an outro track.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is like over 2.5 hours of music. So
I think we did a pretty good job of mostly talking about every track, at least mentioning it.
Yeah. I mean, to show the variety, the width and breadth of this album is ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the problem, is because like if you skip over even one track, then you leave off kind of like a huge part of what makes this album stand out. Like we've done shorter compilations where we didn't do even talk about every single track, but I felt like, there's no other way to show how wide and how varied it is. Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yeah. It's probably going to be one of my memorable albums of this year. Like, I mean, we still got a lot of the year left, right? But like,
but write that down, right? Because those lists always end up. We always talk about there's a lot of recency bias in those lists where anybody too, not myself included, of like, oh well, I just remember these tracks that made an impression from the last 3 months or 4 months, and so when something stays out, make a little note of it somewhere. But yeah, awesome album. Definitely check it out. Definitely, if you can, support it because it goes to a really good cause. Thank you so much for listening. It was fun, but also tiring to try to go through 43 tracks as quickly as we could. I, again, hope that we gave you a good idea of why you should support this album and the kind of variety you'll get to expose to, and hopefully you can find some artists or some tracks or some new sub-genres that interest you. But next episode, we're going to be back to new music. So it'll be towards the end of May, and I'm sure some new albums will come out, and we'll have to pick some to talk about. So I don't know what that album's going to be. You probably don't either. So that's the fun thing with the new music. It's always a mystery. Tune in to see what we talk about. But if you like that and you like what we do and you want to either support it or get more of it, we have a Patreon, Night Clerk Radio at patreon.com, where we have bonus episodes, essays, a really cool Discord community. Not required, but it's a nice little way to help kind of keep the broadcast antenna going. You can also find us as Night Clerk Radio pretty much anywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. I think technically a co-host I logged into once. Facebook, nightclerkradio.com. Whatever works for you, but wherever you do choose to check us out, if you can take a moment to click whatever little algorithm signaling buttons they have, as likes, reposts, whatever, really helps get the show where to people. And as we always say, take a moment to build community. I like the term frenemy to friends pipeline. So you should go out and engage in that. Talk to other people about what you like. I think we have a pretty cool community here amongst the vaporwave podcast world. Hopefully you can get some other people into it and share some excellent music with them. So once again, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.